The American economy is run for the banking community. There is absolutely no mistake. The big finance, the big pharma, the food, the big automobile, these are the people who run the economy. If you want to see the kind of articles which appear in the US magazines and US websites and blogs, it is unbelievable the way they encourage debt. So one of the articles says that the number of people who do not have credit cards is 21% of the population, and I'm sure you would be very surprised, but a few years ago, maybe even in the 70s, only 16% of Americans had credit cards, and today it is something like 79%. And the whole country is now concentrating on the 21%, saying this 21% does not have credit cards because they can't afford it and they are not eligible. Not that they don't want it, but they are not eligible to get. Now they are doing things to find out how can we give them credit cards so that they can they can overcome this current inflation, which is killing. Because for the Americans to see inflation in close to double digits, now it has come down a little bit, is unthinkable. So they are saying, what can we give to you so that you can live during this phase? Now take a typical Indian solution would be to say, let's scale down, let's not spend so much. Now if you are willing to borrow money to live, how are you going to repay? Is the economy so good, so great that you start earning a lot more so that you are able to live your current life and repay this loan? This thought does not seem to be crossing them. So they are all busy looking for how to fund the inflation with current borrowings. The only way to fund anything more that you want is to earn more or by borrowing. Now earning more is ruled out, so they are looking at how to borrow, and they are willing to accommodate. So the government is willing to now say, please lend more so that people can spend the money. Is this some kind of a government guaranteed scheme? No, it's not a government guaranteed scheme, but there is some way that they are trying to fund the inflation, which now they are willing to accept is more permanent, right? It's not that just there's a huge demand and there is a supply crisis because of which there is rise in price. This price rise seems to be more sustained and does not seem to be abating very easily. So what are they planning to do to reduce, to increase the number of people? So how do the Americans go about it? First of all, they create bodies like financial credit, responsible financial credit and words like that, so that people feel that they are working towards helping you. And they have come to they are the people who came out with this number that 1 out of 5 Americans do not have a credit card and they do not have a credit score. And if they do not have a credit score, they can't get anything, because the BFSI does not want to lend to people about whom they know nothing. And the credit score, if you think, is there to help you, banish the thought. Credit score is there to make sure that if there is a person who is defaulting, everybody knows about him or her and that nobody will lend to them. It's more a tool to help the lenders than to help the borrower, right? So don't think it is for your benefit. It is for the benefit of the financial service industry, that they say, oh, if this person is blacklisted here and he has a poor score of say 480 or 500 or something like that, then nobody should lend to him or her, and therefore that person is blocked out of the financial service industry or out of the borrowing industry, right? So that's the way that they can protect themselves. Then that may be about to change now, because they've got together, the financial service industry has got together to see how to help this 20%. What it means is the market for lending to the other 80% seems to be saturated. Now we have to do something to include this 20% in and lend to them so that you can earn interest out of that. Like for example, there is a big finance company in India which gives money to people to buy day-to-day dresses. Believe it or not, day-to-day dresses. You could go and buy a sari by taking a loan, because your income is too less to be able to afford that. So yes, such kind of loans are available in India too, but it is far more prevalent in, say, the US than it is in India. So isn't this the way people get into trouble of living beyond their means? Oh no, banish the thought. These are the people who are going to borrow for their day-to-day needs. This is not getting them into trouble. Of course, this is the language which they say, but you and I know that living beyond your means is the surest way to financial ruin. So are they headed to financial ruin? The answer is yes. Who will bail them out? Government of the US. So who will end up bailing them out? The taxpayer. Why is it necessary? Because the profits will go to the BFSI, the losses will go to the taxpayer. So this is the norm, this is the tradition in the US. So why is all this being done? To improve the profits of the BFSI. Those who have solid credit history are able to borrow for their houses, cars, etc. But those who do not have a credit history have to build a credit history. So these are the methods by which people build a credit history, that they are given a loan against, they are asked to keep a fixed deposit, and against that they are given credit cards, and slowly they get them addicted to credit cards, and then they run up big debts, and then they are told, don't worry, you have to repay only $100 a month even though you owe $1,000, and that $100 will carry 3% interest per month, so, or something like 2% per month, and that is going to be pretty crippling. But then they are not told all this, right? They are told before you signed on the dotted line, remember that you have to make the due payment, and if you do not make the due payment, then there will be penalties. But the person who is desperate to borrow is not even hearing, right? He's already gone past, or she's gone past hearing all this. They are desperate to borrow, so they will sign anything, anywhere. They will not read the fine print, and then they will start paying those usurious rates. If you look at payday loan rates, your eyes would bleed, right? You'll have blood in your eyes, not tears. So those kind of usurious rates, Shylockian rates, if you may, are all levied and collected, and well, what it does to a person who is at this level of the poverty line is now slightly inclining to go down, because the interest rates will kill him or her. So why do they want the other 20% to come in? And what is the language that is used? Oh, you must have a credit score, we are here to improve your credit score, etc., etc. What it means is the BFSI is running out of clients to whom to lend. Then they will talk about responsible borrowing, etc. The company will be, they will create committees, bodies which will talk about responsible credit, but largely end up lending to a desperate person who will not read the fine print of 3% per month rate, or 1% per month rate, or 2% per month rate with monthly rest, which will be completely crippling. Even when you buy a shirt or a pant, and they are lending it to those people who need that money to buy grocery and clothes. These are not people who are going to buy luxury items. Does the government not know this? Maybe yes, maybe not, but lobbying works in the US. So here you will have another crisis coming, like the student loan crisis. Then there will be a general waiver to be borne by the taxpayer. It's as left as you can get. Thank you. The US does a lot of research on people's financial behavior, like in everything else. So sometime back there was a research report where only 7 in 10 retired Americans were confident of meeting their retirement budgets comfortably, or meet it at all, which means 3 out of 10 were not confident that they would meet their retirement requirements from the kitty that they had amassed. And this survey, when I was going through this survey, I realized this survey was in January 2022. Remember, January 2022 is the time when people were not even talking much about inflation. The Fed had not started increasing rates. Ukraine had not been invaded by Russia. Inflation in the US was not very high, and markets were still booming. Now cut to 2023 January, everything else is bad. You're right, Ukraine, the war is not yet stopped. The inflation is high all over the world, including the US. There is a shortage of things which is increasing the price, and that's not the only reason why price is going up. all over the world inflation is being passed on to the US also, right? There is no China and India subsidizing their products so to capture the American market or whatever it be, right? So with all this, how would the retirement confidence be now? I think it must be much lower. So which means, will we see the unretirement of people? So will people go back into the working area to be able to meet their retirement? This is not an option available to people in their 80s. This is an option available only to people in their 60s, and stretch it a little bit to maybe people in their 70s, but definitely not available to people in their 80s, simply because if you have not worked for the last 20 years, chances are you are not updated about anything in the corporate world. So chances are you will not get a job, and it could be too late. So what are the things? I've been speaking to some of the older people, and I've been asking them what will force them to go into unretirement, if I may borrow this word from America. So first biggest worry for people is their healthcare expenses. India is not a country where healthcare is subsidized and available to people. So healthcare is one big thing which is scaring people. Then there is inflation. People in India are also worried about inflation. Third is poor returns. When they invest and they put their